G'day, Keithy here again. Thanks for joining me. So today, it's a bit late in the afternoon. I'm just getting started, but I figured I've only just got a little bit of time to get this done. So I've got to run through it and start this afternoon and finish it off tomorrow. So what we've got, you probably haven't seen this before, the back of my car is empty, except for all of my dual battery stuff there, which you've probably never seen properly because I've always had my drawers in. So now I've got the drawers out, I've got the little panel in there above the gas tank and above all of my spare parts and stuff like that. So that's just temporary anyway. While the drawers are out, cover that up. I can use the back of the car for now. So you see up there, I've got all the switches and connectors and stuff for my ARB air compressor. I've also got the airline for that sitting there against the C-Tech. So that'll all go back in once the drawers go back in. Anyway, I'll show you in there very shortly what's going on at the moment, and I'll explain what I'm going to do. I'll go up the front of the car as well and show you what we're going to do.
Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Right, staring at the tyres now. G'day, Keithy here. G'day, Keithy here. G'day, Keithy here. Okay, so it's very vacant in here. At the moment, there's plenty of room for all other kinds of activities. This is what I have got here. So this is the redundant red arc charger that was originally in this thing when I bought it. I haven't even removed it. I've just disconnected everything from it. That's a little 6 amp charger, so that's obviously not enough. You can see I've got circuit breakers there, and I've also got the big one for the main feed from the other battery. This is all my C-Tech stuff here. So I've got solar in there, I've got the negative, and we've got the positive and the alternator. It's funny, interesting to look, and this is the good thing about the C-Tech here. So you can see what's happening right now. The solar's putting energy back to the alternator, not to the auxiliary battery. So that means that this auxiliary battery is charged up enough, and it's providing a float charge to that battery now. And it's actually charging my main battery up the front of the car, because there's plenty of voltage in this one up the back, and obviously it's not being used, so that's going to be the case. From the outside, what you can see is, obviously I mentioned before, that's all my stuff for my ARB compressor, which lives on the back of my drawers. This is the airline. It goes through a dryer, which is in there, and all the way up to the front of the car where I can pump up tires and things like that. This is the switch. This broke just recently. I need to replace the switch. That's for the ARB compressor. Voltage gauge you've seen. We've got charger input, so I can run a different charger into this car. And these are 2 outlets here. So one of them normally feeds the drawer lights. The other one I can put the other kind of stuff in there. And then we've got this is where my fridge runs off, and the C-Tech solar input. So if I want to run extra solar from my portable panels, which I did on the Cape trip, then that's what I'll put into there. But otherwise, we've got the wire there that comes from the solar panel on the roof, the 100-watt panel on the roof. So it's really good. This is actually just sitting out a little bit at the moment. It got bounced around a little bit in the back, so I've got to neaten that up when I go in here. I'll go take you to the front of the car and I'll explain what we're going to do now. Okay, so in all its glory, it's degreased. Believe it or not, I degreased this and I pressure washed my engine bay, the whole thing with a gurney. So you can see here, it's still a bit dirty. That's not actually dirt. That's the waterproofing that the previous owner of this car actually put onto it. We'll compare that to the aircon lines, which are nice and clean. Same with the battery. As you always, put the install date on that. Fuse box, relays, all that kind of cool stuff. But anyway, what we're focusing on here, this is the feed that currently goes to the back of my car for the auxiliary battery, and also the Anderson plug that feeds. So when I've got the trailer on, for example, I can charge the trailer. I'm going to turn around and talk to you about that one now, and this is why we're doing what we're doing today. Right, so what we're doing today is I'm going to disconnect this feed here that feeds the auxiliary battery. Why am I going to do that? Well, the C-Tech can only take a certain voltage of solar in, and that's okay. But if you want to get bigger panels, and they've got to keep them at 12-volt panels and not house panels, you get limited. You end up with massive panels, and they're a lower voltage, so you need a bigger panel at a lower voltage to do the job. Long story short, I want to run bigger panels, so I need to upgrade the charger in the back. So I've got a 25 amp charger that'll take bigger panels. I'm going to remove that C-Tech out of the back there and put it in the trailer. But I need to do some magic down here before all that'll happen, because there's actually no charger on the trailer. It just normally feeds from that Anderson plug straight to the trailer, and that's robbing Peter to pay Paul from here, because this wiring is actually not sufficient in size to supply the kind of amps that both the CTEC at the moment and the Anderson plug for the trailer are going to demand on a trip. So what happens? Two things. You blow a fuse, or you run out of the ability to charge one or both of those items. What I found myself doing on the Cape York trip, and that video is up there, I was actually running out of charge or ability to charge both of those things, and I didn't know it because I didn't really think too much about where the supply came from for my Anderson plug. But as it happens, it's that tiny little same wire that feeds down the back there. You would have noticed the red arc, the 6 amp charger. So that wire is perfectly fine for that. It's even perfectly fine for the CTEC that's up the back now, but it's not perfectly fine to run a CTEC and to charge the trailer. So in my opinion, I think we need to upgrade the wiring, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to remove this wire here. It's easy enough to take a fuse out of there because it's fused. I'm going to put a 50 amp fuse in, and I've got some 6 BNS wire, and that's rated up to, I think, 120 amps. Definitely overkill, but I can tell you what, running all the way to the back of the car, it's quite a long way. So things you need to worry about is voltage loss, because a smaller wire will basically put a lower current through, and you get a lot of voltage loss over distance with a smaller wire. So I'm going bigger than I need to go for the ability to maintain that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with the car itself or the way that it's charging right now, but when I put the trailer on, that's when we have problems. So we need to get over that. See, before, I've never actually ever traveled with a trailer and used the Anderson plug, or had a need to do that. So I only found this out on the Cape York trip, which is what it is. But anyway, it's something we can work around. It's something that I'd plan to do anyway, because I want to run a better panel up on the roof. I've got that 100 watt 12 volt panel up there, or it's 18 volt, and it's done a great job, and it's never ever been a problem to run that. But I'm actually thinking about going bigger, so that's another justification for me there, another reason that I need to change some things up. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is put better wire in from the front to the back. Supply voltage is a very important thing, but not only that, I don't want to run the Anderson plug starving the DC charger up the back of the car. So that's the first thing we're going to get to. Now the other reason that I want to do all this too is because in here, and I'll show you very shortly, I'll pull that all off there and you can see the bare bones of what's inside the back of my car here. It's actually a bit of a jungle at the moment, so I've got to fix all that up, make it more simple, make it more effective. Now this one here in particular, the battery charger outlet, I don't actually use that. I've never used it. I can't put something in that and power it at the moment. So I'm going to convert that into another outlet. That's easy enough to do. That's just a matter of running it, which it already runs through the circuit breakers up the back there. So that's nothing. I can just change a few wires in there, but it's a bit of a maze. We've got to sort that out. We've got to make it usable, simple. You'll see what I mean when we get in the back there. So you can see here, and this is what the previous owner of this car did install. Obviously it suited their needs, but not mine. That is a 25 amp fuse there, and that runs all the way to the back of the car. These two here, these run off the system for the thermo fans that I installed, which are not in the car at the moment. So you can see I've got my maxi MIDI fuses there, all that kind of stuff. So this is what it's like here. Basically, I'm going to rip this fuse out here. Why am I going to do that? Because I'm going to be playing around in the back of the car, and I don't want any kind of voltage or anything coming from the alternator to that battery while I play around with it. So I'm going to take that fuse out now. I can put this little cover back on here. It's a bit dirty, but it does the job. And then I know that nothing's going to come from here down to the back of the car. You'll notice that I've got this circuit breaker isolated as well. Now it's time to open it up. So that's from the alternator. That's solar. And that one there goes to the auxiliary battery. So the positives are all off. Time to take the earths off and then keep everything separate so they don't arc out. And I'll eventually tape these leads up just so that the solar doesn't accidentally short out on the body of the car or anywhere in the back here while I have it all disconnected. Now you can see in here, so I've got my 140 amp battery. I've got a relay up the back there for the ARB compressor. Right up the back you might see that that's my two-way radio in there. And then all of these wires and stuff, and I don't know how well you can see that. Let me just have a quick gander. You can't really see too much of that there. But we've got our outlets here. There's an Anderson plug that's just essentially a quick release for this panel here. And same with this switch for the ARB compressor. So I'll just remove all of that stuff and I can pull the switch out and just leave it out of the way safely. So what my next objective is, I'm going to go and disconnect this battery so that we don't have any shorts in here as well. All right, so it doesn't take a scientist to see that there's a lot going on in here and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. So this wiring here is excessive. I'm going to shorten that and actually make it a little bit less cluttered in that respect. This one from my two-way, so that's my two-way there. I'm going to shorten that as well. It comes around the back here, just making it a bit neater. I don't know if you can see, but we've got a positive bus bar here and a negative bus bar here. Some of these wires are actually, like that's a negative wire, run off red wire. I'm going to change that to the black so that doesn't get confused ever. This one here, see, it's all just out of place. Some of the stuff is actually loomed up quite nicely and other stuff just hasn't got that way, so I've got to do that. Some confusing bits of gear in there, and that's all to do with the old red arc that was in there as well, so I'll be getting rid of that. So generally we're going to do two things here. We're going to do operation tidy up in this whole area here, simplify it a little bit, and we're also going to run that new cable for the dual battery setup.